some of the most wild ass memories that you have, like rock star time from back overall in the day?
Well, there's a bunch of them. We toured with Guns N' Roses.
Wow.
That was crazy. And actually, Duff McKagan is one of my good friends, and him and I used to drink together. And he got sober, and when I decided to get sober, he was sober years before I got sober. And I called him up, and he's one of the people I said, I'm getting sober, and I wanted him to be my sponsor, but he's too close. You know what I mean? Too
Yeah.
close of a friend. But he's to this day, he's been my friend, and he's one that's gotten his act together and really doing well. But we toured with them. That was wild. Playing. First, we come from playing small places. Then we start playing in stadiums. They're playing.
What's the biggest that you figured you played to? Biggest
130,000 over in Europe.
Wow.
You don't really play to that many people. You just play, it's easier to play. It's harder to play in a club because people really see. In the back, they don't know what you're doing,
Yeah.
But it's always fun. We played one of the wildest shows we ever did was a place here called the Outhouse. The Outhouse is in Lawrence, Kansas. It's in the middle, redneck territory. It's a square building out in the middle of a cornfield, and every punk band plays there as Passage. So we played there, and there's no backstage. You open the door from outside and you walk in behind the drum set. So you're on stage. It's muddy. It was a rainy day, and so we played the show. Then we go try to get out of there. I mean, the ceiling's low. It's like a clan meeting going on in there. So we were playing that place. So we get out and we pack everything up, and then it turns into a bar. So everybody's in there drinking and this and that. So we come up back in like, can we get some help? Our bus is stuck in the mud. So the audience comes out and they go outside and help us push the bus out the mud after we play. So
that's funny, man.
You're really getting your money's worth.
Hello and welcome to another exclusive interview by Recovery Today Magazine and Recovery Today Podcast, where first and foremost, we're a magazine hope. Whether you're considering addiction recovery for yourself, a loved one, maybe you're actively in recovery a little while, maybe you're in recovery a long time, maybe you're not even in recovery at all. You're going to find all kinds of topics related to addiction recovery and really living a happy, successful, sober life at Recovery Today. My name is Rob Hanley. I am the editor-in-chief of Recovery Today, and I'm so excited about my guest today. He is such a freaking badass and iconic. He is the lead guitar player and co-founder of the two-time nominated, one-time Grammy-winning band Body Count with Ice-T. My guest today is Ernie Cunningham, otherwise known as Ernie C. Dude, thank you for taking a minute.
It's actually my pleasure to be here. I've been wanting to do this for a minute.
Oh man, I'm so beyond grateful because our whole intent is really to authentically connect with as many people as we can. And I really do mean like one-to-one authentically connect. And so how do we get the word out, man? It's always about having people that they have influence, or they're like, oh my God, a huge fan of Body Count, love Ice-T, man, love Ernie, oh my God, And so anytime we have anybody that has any kind of influence that comes on, we want to just spread the word, dude. So I'm so grateful.
It's my pleasure to be here. I've been doing this for a little over a decade, and I live sobriety. My life is about being sober right now and helping out as much as I can. So I'm honored to be here.
Isn't that what it is, man? It's all about a life of service, right?
It's a life of service. It's a life of doing good. You know what I mean? Do the right thing. I always say if you do good, things will be good. So yeah. I try to do good.
Well, I love that, man. I try to do good. I love that. Well, bro, like I said, you're iconic, especially like in the metal world and the music world. You're just iconic. You played this.
A friend called me the Kevin Bacon of metal. I know everyone in metal. I'm one step away from.
I love that the whole 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. So
I'm the Kevin Bacon of metal.
You know, and I was talking about some other guys we've had on, Dave Navarro, Nikki Sixx, you know, Billy Morrison. It's like, oh yeah, that's a good friend of mine. You know, like, of course, man. Of course they are, man. All
Well,
your people.
I've known Dave since the '80s. You know what I mean? We did the first Lollapalooza together. You know, Dave's my friend, and you know, me and Dave, you know, we tied on a few in our life. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
we'll end up at this same point. You know,
Probably be a
all the
pretty
people
fun.
that
He'd probably
and
keep it real. He'd probably be a pretty fun one to tie one on with, I would think, too,
yeah,
actually.
we go way back during the '80s. So the '80s, even before the '90s, because the '90s were haywire. The '80s were even the end of haywire. You
I
know.
don't know about you, but I always talk to my wife. You and I are about the same age. I'm 56, and my wife's about my age too. And so we always talk. We say if we could time warp and just stay in time, dude, I would live in the 80s like forever, man.
The '80s were good. I like the '90s, but the '80s were cool. You know, I'm 62. You know what I mean? So, you know, I always say, you know, my whole get down, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I drink a lot of water, and I believe in God. That's
I
my
love
whole
that,
life.
dude.
I'm at 6 in the morning, I'm up at the gym. You know what I mean? So that's life now, you know what I mean?
This is what life is supposed to be, man. I think that it's supposed to be adventures and discovery and stuff like that. You know, I don't think anybody's born like a, you know, you know, some kind of little saint or something like that. You figure things out. But I think at some point, if you live to tell the tale, man, you arrive at this spot where it's all about just good relationships and loving on people, loving God, in my opinion, taking care of yourself, you know.
You know, I'm in the rock and roll business. So a lot of my friends that I've had over the years haven't made it to this point, you know, to make it through the storm. There's going to be a storm in rock and roll because, you know, basically the reason why I drank too much because I didn't have nothing to do all day. I had to play from 8 o'clock to 9:30 at night. That's my day. Then
Yeah.
hop on a bus and get around. There's nothing to stop you from going off the rails. You know what I mean? So I
It's
went
kind
off
of
the rails.
expected too, right?
Yeah.
Kind of expected.
Yeah, I mean, what else can you do? I mean, you're in your 20s and 30s. You got some money. You know everything is coming to you. You know, and you're playing music. It's the simple. You don't have anyone to answer to but yourself. I mean, I
Yeah.
had no boss. I was my own boss. You know,
Yeah.
so and then I remember one time Ice looked at me and said, "Too bad I can't fire you." No, you can't fire me. I'm here. No
Yeah.
matter any condition you come
Started it
in.
with you, man. I don't think
Yeah.
so.
Any condition you come in when you're in a band, you're accepted your play. You know, it's
That's
not that
it,
hard to
man.
play.
That's it. Well, before we go too far down the road, like I said, you know, everybody, but at least people that know that are exposed at all to the music world, the metal world, everybody's going to know what body count is. Everybody knows who Ice-T is, you know. Everybody, people thinking, oh yeah, I know Lollapalooza. I live here now in the Seattle area. I'm getting ready to move
Oh,
to Florida. So when you say Lollapalooza, that's like right here.
that's right.
But for those that don't if you know, we keep it raw and real and gritty and nitty and gritty here at
Mhm.
Recovery Today, man. Like, tell us, you know, the stuff we don't know, dude. Give us like your background, one room log cabin. I know you grew up like Detroit and Compton. It wasn't, you know,
No, I wasn't from Compton. I'm not from Compton. We're from South Central LA. I grew
okay.
up here in South Central LA. You know, I arrived here in the
I didn't know
70s.
Silver Spoon, man.
You know, I arrived here in the '70s, and then I landed in the middle of gang territory, something I didn't know about. I met the leader of the Bloods, and you know, and he kind of took care of me over the years. You know what I mean? Because I always played guitar. That's one constant in my life has been music. You know what I mean? And it kept me alive. Music kept me alive. Music got me out the hood. Music did a lot of good. It took me around the world 12 times. You know, music has been good, you know, but that was music was also the reason why I went to extreme to drinking. My thing was not drugs. I didn't do drugs and things like that. I tried them with some friends of mine, and I tried coke. Coke wasn't my thing because I'm already wiry. I'm like this, you know. I'm like this all the time. When I did coke, I was like, I like going to sleep. You know, I was like all night. I'm like, what am I supposed to do now? I mean, you know, I like going to sleep. So alcohol, you know, passing out is a thing. You know what I mean? Getting too drunk, or you get
Yeah.
sick, and the whole get down. I like that better than being up for days on end.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
alcohol was my thing.
I've done a little bit of passing out. and I've done a little bit of daytime handstand. I've done a little bit of everything, I think. Yeah, yeah.
I remember one time I was drunk at this club called the Coconut Teaser, right? And I was so drunk, I was sitting in the bathroom near the urinal. And I remember somebody was peeing going, "Isn't that Ernie C from Body Count?" I'm like, he looked at, I was sitting at the urinal, just like, yeah, you know, it's been nights like that. It's been nights like that. But the catch about it is, that didn't want to make me stop. You know what I mean? Embarrassment is not nothing that makes you stop.
No, man. You know, we talk a lot of times to guys that are, you know, generally the worst. It's funny. People will say, "Oh yeah, I did everything. I did this and this and this and this and this." And then once I started hitting Vicodin or Oxy or started snorting heroin, then is when it went off the rails. I generally find when people get into opiates is when it completely has gone off the rails. And they'll tell you the most outlandish things, like how they OD'd, they went to the hospital, they had, you know, they were freaking resuscitated or whatever, in the hospital a few hours, released, and then they were partying like, oh yeah, like that was like a speed bump. Like, yeah, I had to go to the hospital today. Like, no, dude, you were dead. They're like, yeah, okay, well, you know, it's cool. Like, I'm alive now. You know?
Yeah, exactly. You know, I had never tried those drugs in my life, but I have Narcan in my car. I got a certificate so I can carry Narcan just because. You know what I mean?
Everybody should have that.
People that are into, you know, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? So you never know. And I said I'd rather be a help than a burden. So by having the Narcan with me, I could help someone.
Oh yeah, man, save their life.
You know, save a life out of something I don't even know a lot about. I just learned about that. I said, well, that's something maybe I should have, considering I'm around a lot of musicians and a lot of people that I know have done heroin and you know, Oxy and things like that. So I
like having a fire extinguisher nowadays, right?
Yeah, I keep that with me now.
Right on, right on.
I got a little certificate. Took a little class and got a certificate, just so when the cops stop me, they won't say, you know, what you doing with the Narcan? You know, Narcan is like, people that do drugs carry Narcan now. It's like they're trying to get it in for them for when they do OD at these parties.
No, it's expensive, as you know, and we're going to hook up with a guy, some billionaire. I forgot what his name is, that he says he can get it manufactured for like pennies, and it should be distributed for free. People should have it. It should be available everywhere, man.
Yeah, and it's simple to use. It saves a life, you know. So I mean, what else? What else?
Yeah, man.
Done, you know.
Well, tell me, how did you get into music? Are you from is it a musical family? Like, what's your musical story? How did that?
I got into music. I got into music because I had a lot of time and I was the only child and I was just raised by my father. So I had a lot of time. So I said, what can I do? And I ended up in Detroit. I ended up here in Los Angeles. I said, well, I could go join this gang right here of all the guys outside. Or I saw this guitar in a pawn shop. And I said, well, I got a guitar. So I got that guitar. I sat on the porch every day and played guitar for years.
What did you play? Were you playing Hendrix at the time, or what were you playing?
I played Hendrix just because I was left-handed.
Okay.
And someone, you know, gave me some Hendrix stuff, and I started listening to it. And but going back to Detroit, I lived down the street from a guy named Dennis Coffey. Dennis Coffey had a band called Dennis Coffey and the Detroit Street Band, Detroit Guitar Band, right? I wasn't playing guitar, but seeing them play influenced me, because I went to the rehearsal. I had a song called Scorpio. It goes dun 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 dun. But anyway, they have this song. It's a hit. When you hear it, you know it. But that influenced me for when I got here. Like, what? I want to play the guitar. So I got a guitar and started playing it. And then, you know, I as soon as I picked up the guitar, I was as good as B.B. King. But that's just for me looking in the mirror playing. I thought I was jamming. And I'm like, and I played it for my father. He's like, well, you're going to have to practice. I'm like, I thought I sounded just like B.B. King. I mean, but 30 years later, 50 years later.
I read, though, that you were entirely self-taught, right? Like, you never got lessons or nothing like that ever, right?
I got some lessons. I went to take guitar lessons, and the guy gave me a right-handed guitar. He says, if you played the piano, you wouldn't change the keys around, so you're going to learn how to play right-handed. So I learned, for a while, I played right-handed. I still play right-handed. I still play right-handed.
Okay.
But but then I saw Hendrix. I'm like, he didn't change the strings around. He played
Wow.
it. So I learned how to. I quit taking lessons because the guy didn't know what he was talking about, and I started learning how to play on my own.
Who would you say influenced you the most, actually, as you were learning? By the way.
You mean personally or?
Yeah, in music, I guess.
Ernie Isley of the Isley Brothers. I like the Isley Brothers, and at one point I still know him to this day. I got a picture with him like recently. I have to see him because I won a Grammy, and I have to take a picture with him because I'm the second Black American to win in the field of heavy metal. But Ernie Isley influenced me. You know, Ernie Isley, the Isley Brothers. You know, they did "Who's That Lady?" They did "Seals and Cross Summer Breeze." But I when I was let's see, how old was I? I was about 14 years old. I got out one of their records and I called every person on that record. And I called a guy named Malcolm Sissel and Robert Magnikoff. And Robert Magnikoff and Malcolm Sissel, they worked with Roger Moore. They invented the synthesizer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they invented the synthesizer. So I called them. I said, "Hi, I want to meet the Isley Brothers, and I'm also ready to get produced on a record." And they were like, "Okay." I'm like 14 years old. So Robert Magnikoff said, "Come on down to the studio." So my father took me to the studio just to give me a tour and kind of just, you know, I was a kid. People were friendlier when you're young and, you know, you got that kind of ambition. People are very friendly. They brought me to the studio. I went around Ken Dunn Recorders, and I never saw that man again in my life. But he produced the Isley Brothers, Stevie Wonder's Talking Book. I mean, just heavy duty stuff.
That's so cool, man.
So that's Ernie Isley influenced me.
Okay.
And he
Okay.
also introduced me to them.
So how about kind of getting in a little bit to the, you know, well, first of all, when did you know, actually, before I ask that, I can stand in music is, when did you first know that you were actually going to be, that you were not like, I have a dream to be, but like, when did you actually think like, I'm actually going to be a rock star?
You know, it's very interesting. I just played and everything just kind of fell into place. I mean, like I've said, I've been very fortunate as a musician. I'm not the best musician. I'm not a Steve Vai. I'm not a Joe Pass, but I'm very consistent, and I've been in the right places and met the right.
I think that's, I was going to say, I think that's what it's really all about, man. It's not necessarily always being the best unless you're like talking about the Olympics. It's really about being in the right place at the right time, man.
Yeah, I've said, I've lived with Ella Fitzgerald when my family didn't have a place to live. My family didn't have a place to live. My ex-wife was friends with her niece, and she said, "Come and live with us for a while till you find a place." So I'm living up on Whittier Drive in Beverly Hills, broke as they come. You know what I mean? And she was very nice to me, and my kids. You know, I have a son who's 40 and a daughter who's, how old is she? 38 now, and they barely remember her, but they're like Auntie Ella, you know. And I live with her. I've chanted with Herbie Hancock, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. I've been around musicians, you know what I mean?
Man,
Like Michael Walden,
a whole lifetime. So if you're 14 and you're thinking, hey, I'm here to get produced, was it at that age that you're thinking I'm gonna be a big star?
I knew I wanted to play music. I knew that was going to be my whole existence, you know, because I wasn't schooling. I was okay at school, you know. I knew, I always say I know a little bit about everything, but I know a lot about the guitar, you know what I mean? And not necessarily just playing, but I know the history of it, you know, how, you know, from Les Paul to Django Reinhardt to Wes Montgomery to George Benson. I mean, I know the history of music. Even though I play metal, I'm more than metal.
Now, by the way, how did you pick all that up? I mean, did you pursue degrees, or how did just self-taught again?
I just listened, you know. I hung around musicians that were really good, you know, and I always listen, you know. I always say, you know, Judge Judy always says, yes, two ears and one mouth. So I listen. Use my 2 ears more than I use my mouth. So if you listen, and, you know, you hang around with, when I was very young, we had a band when I was about 15, 14 years old. We had a band in the neighborhood. We used to go around and play all the clubs, you know, but older musicians would come in there. Your old saxophone players, your old, musicians would come in there, and they would always be helpful. You know what I mean? But just kind of listen to them. They've been around. They weren't successful, but they were good.
What do you think actually separates those that are good from those that are successful? Is it again right place,
a
right
bit
time?
of a drive. One of the best guitar players I met that taught me a lot of jazz stuff. He spent like 10 years in Soledad. He said, I spent 10 years playing, and he taught me a lot of stuff. But I always, when I started getting kind of semi doing stuff, I said, why don't you come out and play? He said, no, I don't want to do that. I just want to play here. You know what I mean? Some people are content just being what they're doing. You know what I mean? They're just in their place that they are.
So let me ask you a little bit about your drinking, your substance abuse. I guess there's not drugs, that part of the story. At what age did you start, did you start drinking and stuff like that? And then at what age did you start thinking like, this could be a problem?
Well, I started drinking, like in high school, my friends, we started drinking, but it wasn't really a problem. It became a problem when I became successful in the rock and roll world, because everything got amplified. Success, I always say success changes people. It doesn't change you at all. It just amplifies everything.
I agree.
You know what I mean? When I used to have one beer, scrape up money, to get, some old English, but now you got cases of beer. You got a rider, because people always say, yeah, you should be down there copping your drugs. I said, no, I had a rider. I didn't cop anything. My alcohol was laid out. It was a bottle of Jaeger, a bottle of vodka. Everything was laid out. So that made it, even worse. You know what I mean? So that it's easier, to go off the rails like that. You don't have to go get it. It's just delivered to you every night. But every night when you're on tour for like 120 days, every night, there's a rider. There's a bottle of vodka every night.
When you're a rock star at that level and you're touring, there's what is it that you have to, I mean, in my mind, I guess my question really is like, is there really much that you have to do other than show up and get on stage and play? Like, I mean, everything is done for you. Isn't everything done? Like, you don't pay your hotel bill. Somebody else pays that shit, right? You don't do nothing.
Don't do nothing. And the catch about it was when I started drinking a whole lot, I didn't go to sound check. My guitar tech did my sound check because he knows exactly what I want to hear. I just walk on stage for that hour and a half, and then that's it. That's it for one day. All you got to do is an hour and a half.
And just making freaking tons of money. Everybody,
and the songs. You know the songs because you wrote them.
Yeah.
So it's the way you play.
So how long in? I mean, you got big fame. You're playing to, huge stadiums and things like that, big, venues and stuff. When did you start thinking like, this is a little getting out of hand then, or maybe I'm not riding the tiger anymore, but I'm kind of getting ate by it?
During the course of my band, I've lost 3 members of it. I've lost, we're all high school friends. I lost one like in 96, he died of leukemia. And I lost Moose, the bass player. He died like 5 years later. He died at a gunshot in South Central LA. I mean, the exact thing we write about. He got killed by it. And he didn't have to be there. He just went down there to visit someone, kind of got caught in some mess, you know what I mean? And the last member was D-Rock. He was the rhythm guitar player. I lost him from lymphoma cancer. And that one kind of threw me off the rails, you know what I mean? It kind of made me start drinking too much. And then we took a break. While you're rolling, it's okay. But when you take that break and you're sitting there by yourself at home and you start drinking like that, then it becomes a problem. That's when it became a problem. When I was sitting at home drinking too much and this and that, I didn't know exactly how to bail it out. You know what I mean? Bail myself out. So I ended up at Cry Help. You know what I mean? But I'm in my 50s then. I'm like 50 something years old. You know what I mean? So at that point, it's either stop or die kind of thing.
For sure.
You have that. You're too old to keep that thing going. So I made the decision. I called up Music Cares. I called up a friend of mine named Kevin Lyman. Kevin Lyman is like a promoter, and he says, call this guy Harold Owens. And so I called Harold Owens over there, and him and Shireen, they work at Music Cares, good people there. And I
Good
went
people at
there.
Music Cares.
What's that?
Good people at Music Cares. Everybody raves about them.
Yeah, and I ended up at Cry Help and went there. And this guy named Guy, he worked there. He helped me through a lot of stuff. And Pauletta, you know, they helped me, people that worked there at that time. And I ended up, you know, going to the Music Cares meeting. I met a guy named Gary Richmond. Now, Gary is like the man. Gary's like the old school guy. And then I ended up joining a gym, a Gold's Gym. I walked in there and they told me to go to this meeting, these guys. And I walked in the meeting, these were like the old 80-year-old, you know, guys that I met my sponsor. He got sober with Jack Webb. I'm like, what? He said, yeah, me and Jack Webb got sober. You went, who? Jack Webb. So, I mean, like the one, they were musicians. He had the one finger trombone player. I mean, just like everything was just like, these were the guys.
Too funny, man.
Yeah.
So is that kind of how it's a general 12-step meeting sponsor? Is that how you maintain even today?
Yeah, but right now, you know, this Zoom thing is kind of strange. But I do Music Cares. Music Cares has a meeting that I do, and I attended, but I send out texts, you know, to the people that were in the group. I send out like 400 texts every week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 4. I do them 20 at a time, so nobody knows everybody's business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the text won't come out of the group and everybody's like texting back. But I've done that for almost 10 years.
No kidding, man. Is that one of the key things that keeps you clean?
Yeah, I stay connected to my tribe. I stay really connected to them, and I care for every one of them, and they care for me. So that's basically how I don't go to, people like go to a meeting every day. Said, you know, one guy told me, he said, I used to get drunk every day. You go to a meeting every day. You know, it works for some. That doesn't work for me. I know what keeps me. I'm doing fine right now by staying connected to the group of people that are musicians also. You know what I mean? Because sometimes I went to some other meetings and you start talking about music, they're like, it's not a music meeting, it's a sobriety meeting. I'm like, what the hell, man? But this is my life, you know what I mean? You talk about your life. So it's a balance, you know what I mean?
Yeah, whatever. I mean, everybody comes with whoever they are. If you've been a musician for decades, man, that's who you are. Music is kind of
right.
Your life. How first of all, how did you do? As a matter of fact, speaking of Zoom, how did you do over this crazy ass, you know, shit that we've been going through for, you know, 2 weeks to flatten to over 2.5 years or something like that? We've been doing this.
Oh, I'm still sober, so I think I'm doing good. You know what I mean? But the thing about it is, I thought about the other people that are trying to get sober at this time. You know what I mean? And the way people are drinking is more people, you know, drinking now more than ever. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm fine because I had a good foundation when this started. Because if it started earlier, I don't know what could have happened, but I had a foundation that was very good, and I had a connection to all these people that helped me go through it. But during this thing, we've lost some of our people. You know, some died of
Well, there's 100,000 people died last year alone. 2020, 100,000, man.
Yeah, just personally on my phone, I've lost a few, fentanyl overdoses and things like that, and a lot of relapses. A lot of people, there's no human connection that stops. Human connection is good. The meetings were good because there was a human connection.
What do you think the most important part of sobriety is? Is that what's like the most important ingredient?
People.
Yeah.
People.
Yeah.
People. I always say people are your best
connection,
asset.
right? Connection is kind of, that's why I kind of was asking that.
Yeah. Your people are your best assets. You know what I mean? I mean, without people, you won't make it. So the Zoom thing I was just like, it's tough. I mean, it
has a lot of advantages because you and I can connect and we can get together like this. We can spread this out, but I don't think there's any replacement for the energy that you actually feel coming off a person and being in the same room with them.
There is not. You can't fake it. There is not, and these kids, the kids more than us older people, we've been through it. So we get what it is. The kids kind of need that. They need to know that people care. And they need that hug, that encouragement, that love that you get from me. So
I think that's probably one of the most devastating things of this whole COVID stuff is that is with the children and is with the loss of connection. I don't think that people understand. I remember there used to be a TV show out like a few years ago, and the guy was like this investigative dude, and they introduced this whole concept of micro expressions. Like you maybe close one eye a little bit, or your cheek quivers or something like that. Well, your brain obviously it picks up on all of these cues. You don't even realize it, right?
Mhm.
And my wife was telling me she teaches second grade, and she's like, where we are in the Seattle area, the masks and stuff are not even coming off for another few, I think next week finally.
Okay.
And she goes, these kids are like so far behind because there's not a connection that she's like this, they're like this. You just can't really connect with people. So I think that's one of the saddest things about all of it, man.
It's very sad. So hopefully we'll recover. If the world recovers, we'll recover we'll heal ourselves.
What are your thoughts on the opiate epidemic actually kind of turning into this fentanyl thing, man? I mean, we didn't have fentanyl back 10, 20 years ago.
I know some people that actually a guy who did a song with us, Riley Gale, he passed a fentanyl overdose. He was in a band. They did a song with us, and I had another friend who passed of a fentanyl overdose. I mean, I can't comprehend it because it's so beyond me. But I'm just like, it sounds so terrible. The minute amount of it that will kill you. You know what I mean? That's what's so scary about it.
I was having lunch with my brother one time, and we were talking about this a couple of years ago, and he picks up a sugar packet and he tears it and he pours it out on the table, and he goes, okay, that's what gets you high. That's the amount that gets you high in heroin. I go, okay. And then he gets one friggin' granule of and he goes, now that fentanyl right there, that's equal to the whole thing.
Yeah. And I just can't comprehend that. I mean, what is it for? I mean, I can't even understand what it's for. I mean, it shouldn't even be on the streets. So
yeah, well, it's all about that money, man, and it's all about that recurring income, from a business perspective that you get people that just have to have it.
It's a terrible thing, and the kids are using it. And that's the catch about it. The kids are using it. So, and they have patches and all kind of,
What are your? I mean, it's very obvious, just reading about you, but then now talking about you, you're a very deep and thoughtful, insightful kind of person. What are your thoughts about and we're about the same age, about where we are in the world today? I mean, I tell people sometimes I feel like we're living in biblical, and I feel like we're living in biblical times or something like that.
Right. It's bizarre right now. I've been everywhere on this planet. So. Right now, it's just a strange time. I mean, I can't put my finger on it. I mean, we wrote a song, Cop Killer. We wrote that 30 years ago, and it's relevant right now. I mean, some kids came to our show years ago, and they said, "Y'all should put that out." I'm like, "We put that out 27 years ago." They think it's something new, but the American culture is just strange right now. I mean, everything's so divided. The Republican, Democrat, the left and right, the black and white. Everything's on.
Never seen it like this, even close, man.
What's that?
Never seen it even close.
Yeah, I'm just like, what is I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah,
I just know it's not going in a good direction.
The weird thing is, I feel like it's actually more like on race, for example. I feel like it is more on race now than ever in my lifetime. That's how I feel. Now, I don't have your experience. I'm not, growing up where you grew up, but I'm just saying, like, I never, and it does seem like some people up really quick to determine race or politics or anything like that. They're like, oh yeah, you're on the other side. Like, there's not any in between, man.
Here's the funny thing. I always say when people talk about race, I grew up in Detroit during the 60s. there was a riot in Detroit during the 60s. But the woman that my father and I lived with was Jewish, a white Jewish lady. She used to take me to school. She took me to wrestling. She carried me around. She took me to Boy Scouts meeting. She picked me up from the Panther meeting because they had childcare there.
Wow.
So my view on race is like, I always tell people I'm the wrong person to ask about that because I don't see color.
Yeah.
This white woman took me. I had a fight one time with some kids down the street, and there was a big family, like 10 kids, and she took me down there, and she met with the mama and this and that and the daddy, and it was all okay. And I came home. My father told me, he says, "Don't ever take that white woman down," But he was just trying to say.
Not safe.
My father was from the South.
Yeah.
He knew what the Blue Book, and he's from Louisiana, and he was the whole. I don't know how they ended up together, but he said, "Don't ever have her go down there and with her again to when you get in a fight." But he wasn't going. But you don't have her. So, but she used to take me to wrestling. I was a Boy Scout doing the riots there. So very interesting.
Yeah, I always like to say, I don't care what color you are, I don't care what you do, as long as you ain't stealing from people and you're not hurting kids and you're not hurting old people, I really don't care, man.
The race thing that shouldn't be going on, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
racism is, we have a song called KKK bitch on our first record. It's a song about racism. We talked about racism on our first record 30 years ago. And we also have a song about Mama's Gotta Die. And back in the day when we released that song, Warner Brothers, they didn't pay attention to Cop Killer. They didn't pay no attention to that. They paid attention to this song called Mama's Gotta Die. Mama is a metaphor for racism. And the song was Mama's Gotta Die Tonight. And the whole song is about only one way we can get it right. Mama's gotta die.
What is your thoughts on the whole thing that we had with the defund the police, man? Do you think we need to do that, or what's
it's the wrong word?
Yeah,
I don't know who came up with the word defund, because they're not trying to defund. I like the police, but I don't want them shooting at me. You need the police. You know what I mean? If somebody steals your car, or somebody steals something from you, you need the police, but you don't need the police shaking down everybody.
Yeah, I think that there is probably some kind of balance between police guys being trained to like de-escalate things, or use non-lethal force or something like that. I think that there's probably crazy ass guys that do join to, there's just people like that. But in general, I feel like I'm a guy that gets pulled over. I'm yes sir, no sir. Like, don't do dumbass shit. You get your hands up. Everybody can see it.
Yeah, I'm not going to get shot by the police because unless they're out shooting people today. Yeah, I'm not going to get shot because I'm doing the same thing you're doing. I'm asking, what's the problem?
Down on the ground.
I'm just trying to get out of the situation.
I'm going to live to tell the tale is exactly how.
Exactly. But the word defund is the wrong word. It should have it's just rearranging the money of how it's spent. It's not let's take money out the police and give it to homeless people on the street. It's defund where the money is going. Let's buy less bullets.
So let me switch back to some of the rockstar stuff for a second, man.
Okay.
I wanted to ask, what are some of the most wild ass memories? Maybe I never ask people what's your top one, because people can never think of the top, but some of the most wild ass memories that you have, rockstar time from back overall in the day.
Well, there's a bunch of them. We toured with Guns N' Roses.
Wow.
That was crazy, and actually Duff McKagan is one of my good friends, and he, him and I used to drink together, and he got sober. And when I decided to get sober, he was sober years before I got sober. And I called him up, and he's one of the people I said, I'm getting sober, and I wanted him to be my sponsor, but he's too close. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Too
close of a friend. But to this day, he's been my friend, and he's one that's gotten his act together and really doing well. But we toured with them. That was wild. Playing. First, we come from playing small places. Then we start playing in stadiums. They're playing.
What's the biggest that you figured you played to?
130,000 over in Europe.
Wow.
You don't really play to that many people. You just play, it's easier to play. It's harder to play in a club because people really see in the back. They don't know what you're doing, but
Yeah.
it's always fun. We played one of the wildest shows we ever did was a place here called the Outhouse. The Outhouse is in Lawrence, Kansas. It's in the middle redneck territory. It's a square building out in the middle of a cornfield, and every punk band plays there as Passage. So we played there. And there's no backstage. You open the door from outside and you walk in behind the drum set. So you're on stage. It's muddy. It was a rainy day, and so we played the show. Then we go try to get out of there. I mean, the ceiling's low. It's like a clan meeting going on in there. So we're playing that place. So we get out and we pack everything up, and then it turns into a bar. So everybody's in there drinking and this and that. So we come up back in, like, can we get some help? Our bus is stuck in the mud. So the audience comes out and they go outside and help us push the bus out the mud after we play. So
that's funny, man.
You're really getting your money's worth.
If you were talking to a young up and comer, and you probably do, a musician or somebody that you're thinking, yeah, that guy's going to be a big star, what kind of advice do you give them overall, like life kind of advice, in terms of perils and maybe drugs and recovery and whatnot? But, I don't know, man, like, what do you tell them? Like, watch out for this. What's your advice to somebody that's young and up and coming?
Well, just as far as the music goes, just stay consistent with what you do. Don't chase something. Just stay with what you do, because I've gone through parts of my life where, like, when disco came in, they're like, oh, guitars are out. Then during the 80s, the glam band, you got to wear this, the spandex, and I'm like, no, that's not going to work for me. So just stick with what you do. So, because our band dress like you dress in South Central, like you dress on the streets. What made that possible was Nirvana, because Nirvana came as they are. They got out of the glam. Yep. You know what I mean? They weren't Queen. They weren't big and dramatic.
They're all grunge, man.
Yeah. But grunge is just a way of saying just come the way you dress. So that helped us out. So by us, because I tried to join some bands, they're like, oh, you got to wear this puff sleeve shirt and look like you're coming off Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm like, no, I don't think that's gonna work. It's not gonna work for me. So it came around, you know what I mean? So just stick to your guns. And as far as the drugs go, just moderation. I mean, they're gonna experiment. Once you make some money, you're gonna experiment, but just have some moderation and have someone who's kind of sober or doesn't get as high as you do to reel you in.
What is Go ahead, Ice. What?
Ice don't drink. I mean, he drinks. I'm gonna throw him under the bus. He drinks. Like one time, I remember he was drinking some shots. He's not a drinker. He does not drink. So by me being on the other edge of the thing, he was always there for me to look at and say, he's doing good without doing this.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
No drugs for him either, then? Too?
Oh, hell no. No.
Wow.
I met some guy.
No
I met a guy one time that said, I used to do crack with ice. I'm like, no, I don't know what ice you're talking about. It's not the ice I know. But no, he does not do drugs. Never has. Don't drink.
How does that happen? It seems, especially at that age. I understand somebody that's maybe 15 years, 20 years younger than us now.
He's my high school friend. I've known him since 1975. I've known him.
Did you guys graduate same class too? You went to high school together.
Went to high school. I always say we used to sit around the lunch table together. Now we can sit around at Denny's and order from the senior menu. I've known him that long. We can order from the senior menu together. So I know the real. He does not do drugs, and he never has.
Wow. What is I think that's inspiring, man. We had another friend of yours on, young gal. She's the guitarist for Alice Cooper. Her name is Nita Strauss.
I'm going to see her in a few weeks, actually.
Oh, she's so freaking cool.
Round table together.
Yeah, she's gorgeous. She's
Mhm.
a terrifically smart business person.
Yes, she is.
And I think also like guitarist of the decade, number 4 guitar. I mean,
Mhm.
she's a badass
Oh
guitarist.
yeah, oh, I know exactly who she is. Yes, I know because I know Alice for years and years. Yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, we need to get Alice on too, actually. So because he doesn't, he's sober too. But I
Mhm.
asked Nita a little bit about, her sobriety, and basically for her, it's like a kind of a choice. And she's telling me like rock stars today, it's all about like green smoothies backstage, and everybody takes care of their bodies, and it's not like
But because because she's touring with Alice. Because I remember my daughter, my daughter, we went to a Guns N' Roses concert, and my daughter knows Duff for a long time since she was like since she was 10, 12 years old. And we walked in and he had a mouth of salad. He was getting ready. And she said to me later, she said, I knew y'all wasn't doing that back in the day, were y'all? I was like, no, no salads were involved.
No
But
salads
yeah,
back
she's
then,
touring with
man.
Alice. So there's still a dark side of touring. There's still a dark, side of rock and roll.
What has been the best part for you, or maybe the biggest surprise to you, something that you may not even have anticipated at all about getting clean, stop drinking and living a life of sobriety? What's been some of the best or surprise that you would have never really imagined?
Well, the best thing is people listen to you and they respect you. You know what I mean? We've been around a long time. I don't think being at this point, I would enjoy, like yesterday, it was 30 years since our first record. I don't think I would have enjoyed it or even accepted it and be as grateful as I am if I wasn't sober. I mean, this last year it's been the roughest year ever, because we didn't tour and that kind of thing. But I've had actually one of the best years. We won a Grammy last year doing this whole thing, and 2 years before that, we got nominated. So this sobriety run has been the best, and I've enjoyed it. I've got a chance to hang out and laugh, and because we got beat by this band called Mastodon. I always, as a joke, I always say, well, we got beat by some skinny white boys on heroin, but that's a joke. So but you never know. But I've enjoyed this. I've enjoyed this more than when I was drinking. Because we backstage, we all hang out. Because I travel with 4 of my high school friends that I've known all my life. Ice,
Easy.
Sean is in the band. My road manager, I've known them, all my life. My road manager, who Al P, who travels with us, when I was in high school, I used to have my dollar. My dad used to give me $1 every day for lunch. I would buy a lunch ticket for 5 cents, or for a quarter, I'd keep 75 cents. And I had a job at Kentucky Fried Chicken. So I bought my first really good guitar, a Fender Stratocaster. I spent $636 for it. I know how much it is because that's how much I paid for it. Because I remember that number, 636 in 1976. That's a lot of
Wow.
money. That's a
Ooh,
lot of
that's
money.
like what? That's like 12 grand or something like that,
Yeah, it's a
probably now.
lot of money. I work, but always, I gave him a quarter every day. So I saved 75 cents every day by doing that. And he's still on the road with us. So every time, we look at him, he's like, okay, I got Ernie the first good guitar.
Nice, man. Nice. So what are you up to now? What's on the horizon for you? What's new? Are you going to start to be touring again? What's the deal?
We got some shows we're going to play. We're not playing a whole lot this year just because things are up and down and still kind of sketchy. But we're going to play with Alice Cooper and Kiss. I get to see Nina, and we're going to play with them in September. We got another show, but we're working on a record right now. We signed a 3-record deal with Sony, which is Century Media, which is Sony Records, basically. So that should take us to the end of this thing. If we do 3 records, we do one every 3 years or 4 years, that's another 12 years, and I'm 60 something. So that should be the fanfare. So I'm kind of okay, you know what I mean, where I'm at.
What else do you like to do besides you play golf or anything like that? What else do you do besides
Oh,
be
I
a rock
whacked the
star
hell.
and stay sober?
I was going to play. I'm starting to play golf. I'm left-handed. I got 3 clubs. I'm just, I go to the gym every morning. That's my whole thing. I got sober. I ended up at the gym. I said, well, it's a sport that you can do by yourself. You don't need to get people to come.
Are you doing like powerlifting? You're trying to be body fat?
I'm trying to be in shape. I don't lift a whole lot of weight. I'm into sculpting. I'm trying to lose my gut. I'm trying to lose my gut.
That's what I'm talking about. I got a friend that's a power lifter. Yeah. And I'm like, nah, I'm not down on that. Like, first of all, I want to be functional. I got joint pains and things like that. I don't want any of that shit. I don't want to be falling asleep in the afternoon. You know, I don't want to be going, getting up off the couch and going, I don't want any of that stuff. I want to be able to play basketball, be able to do, whatever, man.
I always say when I turned 50, I quit playing any game that involves a ball that I might get injured with. I did that.
So what's left? I guess maybe tennis. You got to be playing tennis, man.
You get injured with a ball in tennis. That's why I just lift weights.
That is hilarious. Oh my God.
I'm in a book called The Rockstar Remedy. Actually, Dave Navarro's in that book, Duff McKagan. It's like all the rockers that got sober, how they stay in shape now. And I always say, because they're like, people ask me, you go hiking? I'm like, you go to running? And I'm like, no, I don't hike. I'll run on a treadmill. I'll ride a bike in the gym. Duff McKagan asked me, he says, you want to go riding bikes with me? I'm like, no. I like the safety of the gym.
What is that about getting older, man? Like, I mean, when I was like in my 20s, sign me up for, skydiving, bungee jumping, fucking anything. Now I'm old. I always think like, oh no, man, like I could break a leg doing that shit. I don't want to do that.
Well, you can break a leg, but I think it's just because the closer you are to the end, the less ways you want to end it.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like, no, I don't want to run. I don't want to deal with coyotes, snakes, bugs. I like the safety of the gym. I can talk to a few people here. There's a jacuzzi. There's a steam room. Don't get me too far out there.
I like it, man.
Yeah, now, LA, all the street racing is in and stuff like that. I don't even go out hardly anymore.
Yeah.
But, I got to make this one last point.
Yeah, man.
So I was out at my lawyer's in Westwood, right? And a few months back, they had a big Black Lives Matter protest, right? And these kids, these UCLA kids were all outside. I walked by them. They're looking at me like, hey, you want to come join us? I'm just like, no, I did. I've carried that years and years. We wrote Cop Color. We went through the whole ups and downs of presidents and all this kind of stuff. And I said, this is like the most amazing, great thing that could ever happen. The generation of young kids.
Yeah.
Carrying this flag. I said, because one of my people called me up, young kid, she called me up and said, you want to come protest with us? I was like, no, I don't want to go protest with you. By me being there, it's just going to make me tired and angry and sleepy. You go protest. I'll sit here and reap the benefits of it.
Funny, man.
Because it's not, at this point in my life, it doesn't make no sense to protest. I'm just going to go along with the ride.
It kind of goes along with the safety thing. What, I guess as we kind of bring it in for landing, man, I mean, I'm here to be of service to you, to be of service to everybody that's all of our readers, subscribers, anybody that look at this. Like, what message would you like to, I guess maybe if you were talking one-on-one to a young guy, to an old guy, to, whatever, man, like what's on your heart, any kind of message that you would like to share with our audience, man?
Just live your life, live the best you can, but don't interfere with other people's lives, and don't steal, don't take, don't disrespect, it's just, that's one thing I've always been, even before I turned into that drunk, I was always a good person. I always had my heart in the right place. Then it kind of got off, a little off. Reason why I wanted to get sober, because I was tired of people saying to me, what? I was talking like, blah, blah, blah. Huh? I'm like, okay. And then when I was doing that, I was attracting the wrong people. Because people were I didn't realize who I was, because people called me and said, hey, I got you this deal. I can get you this deal for $1 million. I said, okay, send me $1,000. Oh, I can't do that, but we got to do, I was attracting the wrong people. When you put out negative energy, you attract the wrong people. And some of these people now they see me like, oh, you're doing good. I'm like, yeah, because they know I'm no BS. That's why I always tell my kids that I sponsor, I'm really not no BS. You know, I'm kind of a straightforward dude. You don't have to shuck and jive me. I can get to the point real easy.
Yeah, I like it best that way. It's probably one of the things I like the most about recovery and sobriety is the fact that, first of all, that you can have super transparent type of conversations with people. You know, and this isn't the kind of conversation that you have with somebody at a Christmas party, that we can really get into what I think is like the essence of life, the nitty gritty, the big questions. Why are we here? Actually, I usually ask people, I forgot to ask, one of my favorite questions is, what do you feel like your purpose is, man, here, your personal purpose? What do you, and maybe as a global, what our purpose, but what do you feel like your purpose is here? What do you think? You mentioned God. Like, why are you created? Why do you walk the earth, man? What are you about in that regard?
Well, you know, I used to be to take care of my kids, but now they're older. So, you know, after your kids grow up, then you really have to sit around and say, what am I doing? You know, so I'm just here to do this. This is why I'm here today, to say, you know, you don't have to live the way that you're living if it's not right. You can always put the brakes on and start all over again, you know, no matter what. I've fallen, I've been up at the top, I fell to the bottom, I got sober. I mean, I got sober and I reset it, and now I have another complete career being sober. I've been sober, it's going to be 12 years, and I did 15 with the band high, drunk, you know. So I've almost, if I live to the end of this contract, I should live my life in the music business more sober than I was drunk. So that's good.
That is a really, really good thing. And it speaks volumes. And like I said, one of my favorite lines is, and live to tell the tale. How can people get back with you, Ernie? Everybody knows your music, man. Everybody knows Body Count. How can people connect with you, man?
I'm on Instagram. I'm Ernie 4321. It's so simple. ERNIE 4321.
Where did you get that, man? How come you're not Ernie C?
No, I'm just Ernie 4321. That's also my Yahoo. Years ago when I was in San Francisco, I mean, during the 80s or something like that, early 90s, these kids like, hey, we got this thing called email. I said, okay. They're like, get an email address. I said, okay, whatever. And that's why it's so simple. Ernie 4321. You can't get nothing that simple now.
I've had hilarious.
My email for like, you know, since the 90s. I should have invested in their company, not just get an email. But they gave me an email, so I got Ernie.
Both, man. Wish I would have bought some Yahoo back in like 98 or whenever it was, you know.
Right. These some kids, they were just, you know, they were starting emails. They would just sign up people for emails. So that's my email. And I'm Ernie 4321 at Instagram.
And Instagram. Right on, bro. Well, thank you so much, dude. It's such a pleasure to meet you. Big fan. And just to connect, and I so appreciate it.
And I'm gonna give you a picture of me with a Grammy and a Music Cares shirt on. I want you to post it somewhere.
Oh yeah,
I'm gonna get Ice to post it because
we're gonna have a whole feature. This is gonna be a whole.
He has 1 million followers, and he's my guy. So, and he's also a Cheerio guy now.
He's a Cheerio guy. Okay,
yeah,
he's on a box.
Hold on.
Yeah. Okay.
You know when you're.
Oh man, you made it when you're on the box of Cheerios.
When you're on a box of Cheerios, I was just like, I'm gonna give him the autograph to me. You know what I mean? I said, well, we've come from.
Let me hold that up again, man. You got to hold that up again. That is.
you come from you know, sitting around the lunchroom at Crenshaw High School.
Come on, being on a box of Cheerios.
On a box of Cheerios. And you know what's so funny? I go to Walmart, I turn everyone around so it's pictures out front.
Oh my God, that's even funnier, man.
One last one.
Yeah. Okay, bring it, man. You're gonna show me like a box of cream of wheat or something like that, maybe.
No. I'm gonna show you. This I worked.
Dude.
I worked.
Stop it.
How long is this? I played the guitar for 50 years to get this. You know what I mean? So
wow.
and it's for best heavy metal. From what I understand, what I've heard real quick, metal music is the most racist music in the world. So I've ended up metal guitars. It's not racist. It's some people that say that. There's so much love in heavy metal.
Yeah, man. I think people just love to bang their heads, man. That's what I think. I don't
like
think
to distort. That's back to our conversation earlier about racism and this and that. It's a few bad apples that spoil the whole bunch. I've been playing metal since the beginning of the time.
I gotta ask you though, dude, what does it feel like to win that Grammy? What does that feel like to grab that, have that, hold that?
I tell you, when we were younger, we had a song called "I Never Get a Grammy, so fuck the G. All I need is a crowd and my MIC." And then it was like, we got a Grammy. As you get older, it'll be here forever. After I'm gone, it'll always be here. You know what I mean?
It's amazing.
It kind of says you did something.
Yeah, and you're in such a small, exclusive club, too.
That's it exactly. It just says to you, it says you've been accepted by the musical community.
And excellence. Excellence.
And the thing about it is, I don't think I'm excellent. I just think I'm lucky, and I've been, like I said, been persistent. One quick thing. I produced the Black Sabbath record. Nobody knows I produced Black Sabbath. I hung out with Tony Iommi and played. He brought the guitar. He played in Iron Man. Dun 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 dun. I played that guitar all night.
Is he live or dead?
Yeah. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, but it's kind of acceptance. That's all it is. My manager said you should have got it 30 years ago. When we did the first record, but we got it.
Wow, man. Well, congratulations. I mean, well deserved, a lifetime, man. Well, brother, I appreciate all of the time. It's been awesome. Really cool to connect with you. I hope to do more.
Yeah.
And
I always say on days like this, I say I have nowhere to go and all day to get there.
I love it, man. Well, with that, everybody can connect. We'll have all the stuff in the feature here. You can go to Instagram. You can connect with @Ernie4321. And this is another exclusive interview by Recovery Today magazine, and it is a wrap.